after. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to the Aspen City Council work session of January 12th. Welcome and Happy New Year. We're there rocking and rolling. Let me make a few small announcements before we get going. First off, we are doing boards and commissions interviews, but that will be followed by a very quick presentation, or not hurried by any means, by Stefan about his role on the Early Childhood Development Service District, which passed this past November. We will then go to board and commissions interviews, but we are having an issue with our live feed on the city website. So we are broadcasting on Grassroots TV. It is being recorded, but the city live feed does not seem to be working well. We also have heard that at least one person email kept getting bounced back who did not receive their invite for tonight's meeting for their interview. And so just to let everyone know, we will not be making decisions tonight. We will be interviewing and hearing from people, and council will be discussing the appointments later after we've had a chance to be able to interview everyone, whether they could make tonight's meeting or not. And I think those are all the announcements I was supposed to make to start the meeting. So we will begin with a presentation by Stefan on the Confluence Early Childhood Development Service District. And I think we owe you a round of applause for your unanimous election and your willingness to serve. And we appreciate that tremendously.
It's pretty easy when you're the only one. May you all have that same thing. Some of you have. Yeah, Pete asked me to come. I greatly appreciate the time. When I was thinking about comments to be made here, I think what I really love is to get your thoughts as well. Just because the key is, you all know me from my, God, I think I'm 14 years now on Kids First. This is Kids First is kind of the baby version of this one, just because of the size of the region, and also the budget will be just a touch bigger. So based on that, there will be an ability to support our communities from here to Parachute. I was voted in on seat 5, which is Pickens County. We are receiving tax dollars from here to Parachute. Estimated budget about 12.5 to 10.5 million bucks. And so it's a pretty decent sized budget. We just got voted or did our oath of office last month. The board has been seated, and we do have public board meetings. So if anybody would like to come, I've seen Kelly McCluck-Curry. She was at our last couple. So, as well as Megan from Kids First. So we are getting some great support from the community. I think the big thing for me is, I've heard from Bill Guth. We had a great conversation, and in that conversation, though he did not endorse the sales tax, he did endorse me. I would like that noted for the record. And I think, regardless of where we stand on for or against, it is now here, and so we need to do our best to manage those funds. And so the key for me here is we need to make sure that I represent the people of seat 5, and that some of those funds from the entire area, which we can all argue if they're coming predominantly from the upper valley or the lower valley, or where they are. But the reality is that we need to make sure that we support the working population. One thing that I'd highly recommend for all of you is to look at our service plan. And it really describes how, we are, as an entire valley, so from here to Parachute, we do not have enough just childcare, regardless of that being of high quality. And so I think, especially with these funds, the goal will definitely be to improve the availability as well as the quality for people that would like to work, and also to make a better decision. So be that stay at home or not. So I think that's where I'll start with opening up to you, all of you, unless you had some comments, Pete.
No. Well, let me just ask a couple of boilerplate questions, if I may. Do they have a regular meeting schedule set up?
Yes.
Once a month, or once every 2 months?
Once a month.
What day of the week? What are they?
They're a little bit fluctuating right now.
Okay.
So I believe we've been doing every Thursday, like the first Thursday of the month. But as we get further down the road, we'll have a more regularly scheduled meeting. I think right now we're kind of feeling each other out, seeing if
Sure.
Tuesday will work better or Wednesday or what.
And where are the meetings being held?
They are in the CMC building in Glenwood.
Okay.
They are, but they are available on, you can call in
You
as
can
well.
call it. So they're public meetings, obviously.
Yep.
And then what is the access for people who want to participate?
So we just set up a website, and I believe it's under Confluence Early Childhood Development.
Okay.
And so if you go there, that'll be access for you.
Okay, and we'll get that information in a form that we can share with our community and with the board here and things like that. Again, I can only say I really appreciate you throwing your name in the hat to deal with an important family and community issue, and it's going to be challenging. These things always are. I guess I would just make one comment, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the board for questions or comments, is that I really want to make sure we're seeing parity with the Aspen community in terms of if they're saying, oh, well, we need greater teacher subsidy, or we need subsidy for housing, or things like this. I don't want to hear, well, Aspen's already giving that kind of money through Kids First, so we don't need to give it to them. You know, I think that it's a good for the goose and good for the gander, and we should be on equal parity for any support that the child care centers are getting, and any support that is, starting to target projects such as new child care facilities. The other thing that kind of just simply goes along with that is for me to say, we want to do everything we can to support you in the position. If you need research, if you need data work, or if you need anything from us through Kids First or through our finance department or anything like that, just please ask, because I think it's just very important as we try to manage and support these issues here locally. We're now supporting, and as you said, and is appropriately so, an awful lot of our workforce comes from areas where there's not that child care availability. So I'm happy to see us supporting and helping, but I just want to make sure that we're not helping and then also kind of penalized because we are Aspen.
Yep.
Okay.
And I would, first off, I appreciate you saying that we can reach out to Kids First, as I was going to this week to get some guidance from Megan, as well as from Nancy on providing effectively a request for proposal / resume from somebody who could be a consultant for us as we kind of build out the infrastructure. So I do appreciate that because Megan and Nancy, as well as the team that you have here at the City of Aspen, do have an amazing skill set, and they have effectively created the white paper for early childhood education, development of high quality facilities. So I think we have built an amazing facility at the Yellow Brick, and we continue to have that, and may we all have that in the future. So, and then, yes, I fully agree. I think the key for me is we need to make sure that though Kids First is supporting, we do need to make sure that we find ways for those funds to come and circle back to Pickens County that have been raised from Pickens County.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I see Bill's hand up first, and then I'll come down the board for anyone else's comments.
Thanks. Stefan, thank you for doing this. Stefan, thank you for doing this. We're super lucky to have you in this role. It is accurate that I did endorse you and couldn't ask for someone better to be in this seat. And it is also accurate that I did not support the tax initiative because of something that Rachel alluded to and more, which is we've done so much in the city of Aspen already for early childhood education, and I'm proud of that. And I think we've really mitigated a lot of the issues that we were experiencing a few years ago, and I'm supportive of the work that we're doing. My concern is that we are going to be contributing disproportionately more than most of the other communities in this district, and we will get less. And so I beg of you to please advocate strongly for our community's interests and make sure that we are getting at least our fair share on a pro rata basis. And that being said, you know, Rachel made me think of something in her comments, which is just because we've traditionally funded Kids First through the general fund doesn't mean that some of the funds that are now being created by this special taxing district couldn't replace those funds, and we could do something more or different for the community. Yeah. With the funds that we've historically used from the general fund.
No, we really haven't been using general fund funds. It's from the 0.45 cent sales tax that funds Kids First.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. But the point is, yeah, it can sort of be new and different things that we can be doing with that revenue stream and that money, and sort of supplement or replace some of the funding that's traditionally be used for normal Kids First operations with this. That would be totally acceptable to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to make a comment?
Sure.
John and Christine, because you can back clean up. Cover everything everybody else has done.
I just wanted to thank Stefan for his 14 years of service so far in this arena. I think, as Bill alluded to a little earlier, this was a bigger problem a couple of years ago than it is now, but it's still a problem. And I know you know more about this than any of us, and I'm just glad that you're there and have an eye on our finances. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for stepping up and serving in this role. I do think it's still a problem. I think the problems have shifted in where they're taking place and what the issues are. So I don't think it's a problem that's gone away or will be solved by this, but hopefully will improve things. One question, is there a timeline for getting online? I know the revenue's already being collected, but can't be dispersed yet. How's that looking?
So we're receiving our first allocation of funds in March, but that's a little iffy. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, the first round of funds was going to arrive in June. Does that answer that question for you?
And will the organization be ready to start dispersing at that point?
We hope so, yes.
Okay, great. My only other comment is you alluded to having Kids First support and the excellent work that they've done. And I would just make sure that this organization makes a differentiation point as well, and is not just a replication of Kids First. I think there's a lot of opportunity and lessons learned for broadening regionally some of the work that we've already done here.
Agreed. And I definitely want to circle back to your previous comment about the fact that this problem is not solved. I mean, I am constantly reminded every day when I walk into the bank. I work at Alpine Bank in town, and I work with Mary Ryerson. And she had a short stint away from banking because she had no childcare for her children. And so, we need to make sure that people are allowed to continue, if they would like, to continue the line of work that they're in. And pulling somebody away from banking to become part of a childcare team. I know for myself, having a wife that's a teacher, I could not do that. And so the key for me is I want to make sure that we are not only ready for today, but ready for the next boom cycle when we're trying to bring in the brightest and best into our community. And they have kids that need early child care spots that's available, as well as it's available at the time and space that they need, right? Not all child care facilities fit all families, depending on hours, depending on quality, depending on services provided, and et cetera. So I think having a diversity there is huge.
Great point, thanks.
Sam?
A lot of seconding of comments up here, and just with everyone speaking, it gave me a thought that just to give you maybe some action items as far as if you can come back to us with what you think are success points or things to work on for especially this part of the valley regarding childcare, just so you can potentially come back to us and tell us what has been done, since this is a new thing a year from now, 6 months from now, to be like, here's the progress we're making with the funds that we have to show that things are going how you intend them to and how we intend them to, since there was a lot of unanimity at this table about what we're looking for.
Very good. Do you have any other questions or comments for us, Stefan?
No, thank you for your time and appreciate the support.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming in. We wanted a little bit of the dust to settle post-election and get through the holidays, but we will start to, we will make time whenever you need time with us or with staff, and beyond that, we'll ask occasionally for periodic updates.
Same. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now move on to our boards and commissions review. And let's see, are we starting with the APSHA ones first? Anybody want? Sure. I have the,
You going by the packet?
yeah, I actually,
First in the packet, too.
just first in the packet. So is Peter Grenny here to speak to us?
It's online.
Oh, okay. Great. Peter, we can see you're there. We're going to allow you to speak to us. And if you would like to just start by telling us why you would like to continue on the APSHA board and be moved from an alternate to a full member.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm interested because I've enjoyed my time on the APSHA board, I think, for a year and a half now, and I feel that I've built up a good amount of institutional knowledge and understanding APSHA and some of the nuances of how it works, the board functions and staff, and look forward to continuing work on the board and collaborating with the other board members. And it's been a great experience so far. I think it's an important role in the community, our biggest asset. So that's why I feel compelled to contribute and participate.
Okay, thank you very much. Who would like to begin with any questions? Bill?
Happy to. Thanks, Peter, and thanks to everyone else online and in the room for your interest in serving on our boards and your past service. It's so important, and I value it tremendously. I think that's shared amongst all of us up here. I might have been the first one to suggest to Peter that he serve in this role or try to serve in this role. So I say that only because I think he's excellent for it, and I'm deeply appreciative of his service and his perspective. And Peter, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about how you bring a different perspective to the table than others sometimes. I don't mean that in a negative way at all, but could you talk to why that's important? Talk about why that's important.
Yeah, I think we have healthy conversation on the board, and I sort of enjoy deep diving into the numbers and the data, and I think that's where my perspective primarily comes from. It's probably no secret. I think my interest is sort of understanding how the current inventory can be supported and made the best that it can be to support the residents and the community. And I've been curious what the overall goal is for housing. It's a major problem and has been a crisis for as long as I think anyone can remember. So I'm interested in the problem-solving aspect of it. And, I do recognize that the board's role and APSHA, which is sometimes misunderstood in the community, is quite limited to kind of compliance and qualification and some management of city-owned units. But the universe of workforce and community housing is obviously much bigger. So I think I enjoy studying the big picture as well as contributing on the APSHA level.
Thank you so much. That's it for me.
Thank you. Other board questions or comments? I have a couple if you'd like. I'm just wondering, Peter, you live here in town, but you're not coming in person for this interview, and I understand you Zoom in for most of the housing board meetings rather than meet your colleagues in person and be able to have face-to-face conversations. Why is that?
Well, I'm at work right now, so I'm just juggling other commitments, and I wasn't sure what time this would come on. So with the option available, I just assumed Zoom in. I do attend a fair amount of the meetings in person. Being an alternate board seat, not having a voting position, sometimes I'd sit in meetings and not vote. So that doesn't mean I wasn't participating, but if it matters that I attend in person more, I'll make that effort.
Okay, thank you for that. Other board member questions? John?
I don't have any questions, but I will say I think Peter does bring a viewpoint that was lacking on the board before, so I support his candidacy for the position.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No, I don't have any, thanks.
Any questions, Sam?
No, I'm going to ask every candidate just what they bring to the table and why they want the position, and that's really all I will ask for this board.
Okay.
And Peter already answered that, so thank you, Peter.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I've watched a few of the APSHA meetings online and listened in a little bit, and the one thing that concerns me is, and it may have been in jest, Peter, but this comment about that, if people aren't willing to move out and move on or downsize, that we should start coming up with a policy for forced departures and force people to sell their units in retirement. How do you feel about the retirement aspects of the APSHA program?
I don't recall those comments, but I don't think anyone should be forced to sell. I think on the board we've talked at length about incentives to do that, and I don't think we've found the right incentive yet, but there's been some good experimentation with that, and I think it's something we need to be honest about in terms of the challenge it creates for new members of the community in terms of getting into housing and how we can create better flow through the system so that we can have a sustainable program. But by no means do I have I suggested we force people out of their units.
Okay, how do you feel about APSHA's retirement policies that after someone has given the majority of their working years to the community and reached certain benchmarks, such as Social Security retirement age, they are allowed to retire in their unit? Is that a policy you would continue to support, or you would like to change to improve the flow through the system?
I think we need more study on it. I think we need to look at what's working and what's not, what flow we want to see through the system, where the bottlenecks are, how new projects like the lumberyard are helping that, and what we want the overall kind of demographics of the housing to look like to support the community in the future. So I think it's a very complex issue and a very complex question to get to the bottom of, and I think the board's working on it, and I enjoy being part of that, but I don't have an agenda myself specifically.
So you're saying you are open to being able to eliminate retirement in APSHA units, ownership units, or no?
No.
So you're not open to ending the retirement problems? Because I'm getting emails from people all the time now, and people stopping me on the streets and saying that's the main reason they would not consider downsizing, is because they would have to get a new deed restriction, and that deed restriction says it's subject to change as APSHA regulations change from time to time. And people have been writing me recently to say they're not sure they want to invest in upkeeping their unit because they might be forced to sell it in 3 years once they retire at 71 or some other age. And so for me personally, this is an issue that I think is worth discussing for all of us, the APSHA board, with council and with the BOCC, before starting to embark on changes to the retirement policy. And personally, I'd like to see something added to the deed restrictions that people buy, that while APSHA can change any number of other requirements, they cannot suddenly change the requirement on a home you've owned for 15 or 20 years and say that you cannot actually continue to live there after you're retired at an older age. And that it's the same debate we've had for a long time, but housing has been here about building community. And that's why we build bedrooms for children, because they don't work. They don't work for 15, 18 years. But we don't say we're not building bedrooms for children. So our senior program, I think, is very important to the cohesion of the community and needs to be untouchable and perhaps memorialized in ways that aren't subject to future board changes. Because people who are in housing now are becoming very, very nervous about what have they really bought into, and will they be forced to move at some future date?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing. I'm open to changing it on a going forward basis.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's important that we have a lot of candor in these sort of discussions, as difficult as they are. I've just always personally felt it's very hard to recruit that top talent for a community and ask them to dedicate years in a management position or opening a business or something like that, while they know that they're paying a mortgage for a unit they're going to have to leave and that they won't be able to stay there. So Aspen will just become a resume builder for people. And it really goes back to challenging the very purposes of housing in our Aspen area community plan, which is that it's about having a community, a living community, from children and infants through seniors and retirees. And I think that that's an important component to know that that policy comes from the BOCC and the City Council, and changing that sort of dynamic would have to come through a new Aspen area community plan that says an imported temporary workforce is more important than long-term community members. Thank you. And I'm sorry, Peter, but that's for everyone who's an applicant or the community to know my concerns. If you have any other comment or response, feel free. We would certainly be open to hearing from you, Peter.
No, I really appreciate this opportunity and the time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Susan Dillingham.
Hi, Rachel. I'm not sure I know the rest of you personally.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, and thank you for applying. And starting off with the same sort of generic question of why would you like to serve on the Aspen County Housing Authority Board?
Well, I have lived in various forms of employee housing since, well, I've lived here my whole life. My children are the fourth generation of my family to graduate from the Aspen High. I've lived in all sectors of the valley. I've started at Smuggler Trailer Park before it was a Superfund site. We moved to Woody Creek when it was a long distance call to Basalt and no tavern. After the birth of my second child, I actually lived in Redstone and commuted to to Aspen. Ended up buying a trailer in Crawfordville, or, Elderbell, and it appreciated, and I was able to win a new housing at 106 North 8th Street. So I was in the category housing. Again, lucky enough to win employee housing again over at Stillwater when it was built, and moved over there. And touching on the retirement and moving on, I was a single mom raising 2 kids here, and I lived in Stillwater. It was pretty expensive for me to live there. After my children graduated high school and went on to college, and neither one have come back home to stay here, but I was in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath Stillwater unit, and I didn't want to have a roommate anymore to be able to afford it. I was lucky enough to be able to purchase in the RO market after being in other categories for so long, because I did win 3 units, and I was able to buy down in Lazy Glen. So for me, when my kids, I lived there for 11 years, and my kids graduated and were gone. Of course, they hated me for selling, the house right downtown after growing up in town.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to be able to have that exit plan and to purchase something that was available to me at the time in Lazy Glen. So I was able to allow another family to, I think their daughter was 4 when they moved in, and that was about 10 years ago. So I've been through the process several times. There have been problems in the overall APCHA system that I think that people have done their very best to try to address. I think by being a realtor who's lived and grown up here, that I can bring a lot to the table because of my actual living in the system. As well as watching all of my friends jump down Valley, end up in Newcastle, some in Silt, some of them being able to stay up here. But then a lot of people that have left and gone to college, and then that I graduated high school with, that were able to come back and raise their families here, but mostly because they were able to get employee housing.
Thank you. Board member questions?
Sorry, Suzanne, you answered it as perfectly anyway. So the only question I was going to ask you and the other ones are, if Peter is ascended to a regular member, would you be open to being the alternate?
Yes.
Okay. And thank you again for everything that you said. That was very nice to hear your story and how you ended up where you did.
Thank you.
Bill? Any?
Thanks. Nice to see you, Susan.
Good to see you. How have you been?
Are there any sort of specific regulations or rules within APCHA that you think need to be addressed, looked at?
The problems that I experienced and when I talked to the Pickens County Board was mostly the process in, it was, here it is, you win, and you have to buy, and even though the people at APCHA are brokers, there was no help along the way, and I felt, and there was, at a certain point, I don't even think that there was a financing contingency in there. So you have people that they're buying their biggest asset, and they're getting no help along the path at all, and getting really pushed, and if you don't do it, there's 85 people behind you that will. So I think the process could have been better. There was also a time where I was in my Stillwater, I was modifying my mortgage. I actually won another unit that was $100,000 less, and Wells Fargo wouldn't, they were my mortgage over here, they wouldn't give me a mortgage that was $100,000 less to move across the town. And I ended up, there was no financing contingency in the contract, and what happened is the APSHA board decided that they would allow me to try and find somewhere to move, and that the people that were buying it were going to get my unit, no matter what. And so I ended up having to posture 3 days before closing that I was ready, willing, and able to close, and that's when they said, well, they never pursued their loan. So it kind of became a mess. I ended up staying in my unit. They ended up usurping the line and getting another unit, and APSHA paid them their earnest money that they lost to me. I think it was called the Dillingham Clause for a little while. I'm not very happy about that situation, but that really points out the problems that I saw in the system and that I would be really willing to able to help with.
Thank you for that.
Other board member questions?
I just have a question. You've been here your whole life and sounds like very lucky in housing, and why, but have you applied for this board previously?
No, I have not.
So what in this specific moment inspired you to apply right now?
Just because, my children have been gone. They're now 30 and 28. I have been out in real estate on my own. I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore where I can, give the time. And I just think that it's time for me to give back to the community.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming, Susan. We appreciate your time in town, and I'm sitting to think about it, but were we on the same ski team back in '79, the Jerome team in the town rec league?
I was only 12 then.
Okay. It was somebody else who had your same red hair.
It was somebody else, but yes, I did. I was on the Elks Lodge team and a lot of the town league series.
I saw you up there.
For a long time, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Linda Manning is unable to attend. Pete, you had said there was some confusion about the correct email or something?
Yes, there was unfortunately, we missed a character in her email communication, so I did reach out to Linda and apologized for that. I do think that we can arrange for another round of interviews, because we do have another applicant that is for the board's, for the granting board, that we might need to also interview because of illness, so.
Yeah, there's a pretty nasty flu going around and cold. Okay, so we will be interviewing Linda later. Jacqueline Matthews. Jacqueline.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for applying.
Thank you. Hi.
Just open us up with why you're applying and what you think, as Sam says, you can bring to the table.
Okay, I'm a mortgage lender. That's my background. So, and I live in employee housing currently in Woody Creek, and previously I lived in Centennial. So I think I have a very interesting perspective. I've been through with Centennial when I bought and when I sold. It was still in the midst of its unlendable, trying to sort out what they thankfully have now come up with a solution for. So I've kind of been through all of that. I now own, I got lucky and got a house, which is like amazing, in Woody Creek. So I'm very familiar with, also moving out of town and just the process of buying and selling and sometimes the challenges. But also with that, I do loans on deed restricted properties. And I've been doing this for 20 years. There's a lot of things that I don't think the board, and it's just like anything, cause and effect, right? You create a policy or create a program, and sometimes things you don't realize what it might open up a door to. So I see a lot of that. I also have seen a lot of projects go through what Centennial has gone through in various phases, and know kind of how that impacts homeowners and people who live in the community's ability to continue to make it affordable to get these housing units that they luckily and are so excited to win, and then find out the payment's really expensive because it's going through litigation or it's got any number of problems. So I just think that I have a really helpful perspective to help us hopefully avoid some of those problems down the line as we kind of go through some of the things that keep popping up on properties maintenance being kind of the main one that continues to roll through.
Thank you. Other board member questions or comments? What do you think about being able to retire in your unit or other people being able to retire in their unit after they hit full Social Security retirement age if they've, had to have bought the unit prior to 10 years of,
Right.
and the rules and,
I think this is community housing. I think it's both, right? It's workforce. We clearly need it for the workforce, or else how do we have a town? But it is community as well, because that's the soul. How, people are raising their kids, I'm raising my kids in it, and my neighbors are, and it's great. This is our sense of community. So I think you definitely need to find a way for people to retire. But within that, again, I think there's multiple levels to that. There are people who might want to leave because even outside of the housing, it's very hard to live here. It's very expensive.
Yes.
And you become, you're on a fixed income. Can you afford to live here on Social Security or whatever your fixed income? There's a lot of people who might choose to leave. But some of the systems and the policies almost make it impossible for them to leave. So we've got to kind of figure that out, I think, a little bit. But also, going back to the maintenance thing, these properties weren't built to last 100 years, 50 years, 60 years, what have you. So you're starting to see with some of the older projects, deferred maintenance coming up as a problem. And some of these properties are already going through special assessments. There's going to be more down the line. How does that impact people who are on a fixed income?
Yeah.
How are they going to afford those? So I really think that we need to start considering that. I think it's already showing its head with some of the projects that are older that we have, but it's going to continue, right? And then with that, so the answer is, right, capital reserves and the reserve studies, which are amazing, but no one wants their dues to go up. And you've got to balance that with keeping it affordable. So some of these projects, the dues have become, some of them have $1,600 a month dues. Is that affordable? How do we balance that? But that's what they need to maintain the property. So, and I don't have
that sounds like a
an answer.
3-bedroom at Hunter Creek.
Good guess. But that's expensive and, but it's necessary too. You don't want to also not be able to maintain the property because we don't want crumbling properties and we have to maintain what we have because eventually, we can't just build our way out of this.
Right.
So we've got to figure out that balance. And I think that is going to, as we continue down, going to become an important role for APJA is kind of trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
And make sure that, like I said, and even, this was one of the things I was talking to county commissioners about, policies. I think there's some amazing policies that we've rolled out. We've kind of alluded to some of them, you have as well. The right size. I think it's an amazing idea. And I think it's worked really well. But I've been involved with those three
I was going to say,
topics.
almost nobody has taken advantage of it.
No one's taking advantage of it for the reason you brought up, which I think is very interesting. But also the three that have happened, I've been involved with in various ways. A lot of those properties have deferred maintenance. So by the time the person has agreed and said, you know what, I will give up my 3-bedroom. The person who's stepping in, as Susan was talking about, there's 85 more people who will step in and take it. That house needs a roof. It needs a lot of maintenance. And that's very expensive for the next person to take on when, so how do we make that fair? And how do we encourage people to want to right size and encourage people to want to take on those properties and those projects and maintain them?
Yeah, I really appreciate you diving into the complexity. And while we don't have anything scheduled or firmed up agenda, we are talking about having a housing summit to try to really drill down on a lot of the policy aspects. We were looking at and thinking about should there be some sort of incentive to move out, and yet we look backwards and say, well, 45 units sold last year on their own, and would you be paying people to do what they're already going to do or not, as opposed to maybe putting that money into the unit itself and things like that. But no, you're right. It's a system that, at least to my expectations, it's over 50 years old. It's time for a 50-year review, see what's worked well and what should be modified in the future. Bill.
Thank you. You seem very well educated and involved in the system and the process, and we appreciate that. I'm sort of going to recycle Sam's question. Is if we were to decide to ascend Peter to a full voting member, would you be interested as an alternate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Any, Christine?
No, I only had a question about specifics on policy, but you've answered those, so thank you for applying.
Great. Thank you very much for offering your services. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And the next, last housing advocate interview is Jim Pomeroy.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hey, Jim.
All right, so I'm not even sure where I should start here with y'all. Jim Pomeroy, lifelong Aspen resident. Funny coincidence, Susan and I graduated from high school together. So I've worked various jobs throughout the city, real estate, building, had my own business for a while, and then worked for the city for 14 years. For Christine, one of your questions that was asked earlier, I was actually on CCLC right before I started working for the city, but then I had to step down, and because you're not allowed to be a board member if you're working for the city. So now, last February, I left the city, and I have my own business, and so I am now looking at starting to become a volunteer again and try to do some help. I'm not going to guess what your questions are, so I'll let you all just ask them.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, let me go ahead and start with the topic that I've brought up with others. How do you feel about retirement policies and policies related to APSHA housing? Is it primarily just workforce goals? We should build a lot of dorms from here on going out, bring in more J1 workers, or is it about creating a community and maintaining a community from generation to generation?
You know, I'm lucky because I have the perspective of seeing this over a long time frame. And the community housing program that we've created is Aspen. It's the only thing that has made this town the way it is. And it has to be supported in every way possible. And telling people that you've put in your time, you've built a life, you've built a family, you've built a business, you've done all these things, and now you have to leave is unconscionable. It's not an option. Now, that doesn't mean we can't look at options for people, and I think incentivizing is going to be the key. It's not going to be cheap to incentivize, but we are going to have to incentivize. I think we should think about having senior-only housing of some sort, and you can only win one of those units if you sell a 2 or 3 or 4 bedroom unit. I think we might just need to look at just straight-up cash. I mean, it's cheaper than building Burlingame. I mean, we just need to look at options, and we can never force anyone out. That's just not an option.
Thank you. Other questions for the Bill?
Nice to see you, Jim. Thanks for applying. I don't know how many of you know Jim's work history, but I interacted with him a lot in the city in his role as zoning officer,
Yeah, so I worked for the Community Development Department for 14 years in both building and zoning.
Got it. So I guess my question for you is why APSHA and not something closer to that which you are a presumed expert in?
Well, I'd like to say I have a lot of experience with housing. It's just something that's near and dear to my heart. I have lived most of my adult life in employee housing. Just about everybody I know lives in employee housing. It is, like I said, I really think it's the most important quality. We have a lot of programs in Aspen that are important and innovative, but this is maybe the most important one, and I'd like to be a part of that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sam?
Well, for sharing stuff like that, I worked at the same summer camp that Jim
Yes.
did back in the day, just different years, though, so cool little small-town connection.
Where I met my wife.
Exactly, very small town. My only question was the same one, as far as would you be interested in being an alternate if Peter is ascended to a regular member?
Sure, yeah, no, I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Questions at this end?
No questions. I know Jim's experience here in town and his experience with affordable housing, and it's deep. Thanks for applying, Jim.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
John.
Yeah. Very good. Christine?
I don't have any questions. Thanks for applying.
Yeah, appreciate your time and your commitment to the town.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now going to move on to Board of Adjustments. And Jennifer is here. Thank you for your patience with our other duties. And sorry we didn't have a timeline for you, I guess.
It's okay. Hi.
Thank you. Why would you like to be on the Board of Adjustments one more time?
Well, my name is Jennifer Fulton. I would like to serve in our community, and Board of Adjustments seemed like a good fit. I have a busy life with 3 children, and I'm a full-time real estate broker, and want to serve our community, and sounds fun and exciting.
Okay. How good are you at saying no?
No. It's a yes or no question. I think that it's a very fine line to give grants to somebody that's going past the line. So I will really take that job seriously, and people asking for a little extra inch, because if you give an inch, you take a mile, and it can really get pretty hairy fast.
I can appreciate that. I've heard times when the Board of Adjustments being asked more about, can we avoid the design guidelines for the neighborhoods, as opposed to this is about a lot line adjustment or a building adjustment or something. It's more about, I'd really rather have large front picture windows across the entire front of my house in the West End. And so I just want to make sure you're comfortable with a position that has pressure, and you may have to say no sometimes.
I would imagine a lot more no's than yeses.
Okay. Thank you very much. Questions across the board, across the table?
I'm happy to go.
Okay.
Jennifer, nice to see you. Thanks
Hi,
for
Bill.
doing this. One thing I wanted to sort of just put out there as a statement before
Yeah.
I ask my question is, the Board of Adjustments is a place for sort of gray area. That's why you're going to the Board of Adjustments. And so it isn't just about the black and white of what the rules say, because there's situations where the black and white just doesn't work and it doesn't make sense. And so the whole reason for that board to exist is to find the color and to find the sort of gray area and make a decision that is a good balance between what's right for the applicant and what's right for the community. So I think that's important to keep in mind.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because that's very distinct, but includes what I was concerned with, of they're just asking to get a little extra, as opposed to this really is a conflict between codes or what can happen, and the gray area. I like that.
Exactly. Thank you. So my question is more of a technical question. In this role, you're going to be asked to interpret codes, you're going to be asked to review plans, you'll have assistance and guidance from staff, but it's important that you're able to formulate your own opinion based on what you understand from reading those things. What's your ability to read and understand codes and plans? And
It's been a passion since 2007 when I moved here and got into real estate, just breaking down the codes and what our policy states and what people are applying for. I think I'm really solutions-driven and would be driven to find a solution that fits best.
great. And just drilling down a little bit more, if I were to give you a plan set for a house with elevations and floor plans and sections, do you feel like you're comfortable with understanding what that translates to in reality?
I should have been an architect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, George? Or questions?
I just was curious, are you aware of what the Aspen Area Community Plan is, and have you read it?
Yes,
Great.
76
That's a
pages.
great first step.
Nice recall.
Very good.
I'm familiar with you and the community service that you've done before, and I'm just curious why this board over some of the others that you might be curious about too.
I think a lot of the others are a lot more time commitment. I think this is a step into what I really want to serve for without such a life-consuming time commitment.
Sarah, I know you have a
I hope I'm
baby. Yeah.
Go. Thank you.
Thanks
Yeah.
for applying.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Appreciate that. Is Victoria Thomas here? The attendance was not confirmed per my cheat sheet. And I don't see anyone online along those lines. There's a lower T. We'll just double check with that along with Linda Manning and see if there's an alternate time for that. We're going to move on to Commercial Core and Lodging Commission. And we have 3 people with CCLC applying. Do you guys, would you feel comfortable applying at the same time, all 3 up at the table?
Rachel, while they're coming up, I apologize for not doing this earlier, but Angie and I do have a business partnership together.
Okay.
I don't know if I should remove myself or not on that one.
You probably should, because ultimately you will have to decide on this particular board. And so I think under our rules, you would not be allowed to vote on that particular
problem.
board, but you can participate in all the other interviews.
No problem.
tonight.
Given that Allison withdrew, and I know Amanda and Judd very well, I'm totally happy with you continuing to do all 3 together. And
You'll just have to step out of the room.
No
That's all.
problem at all. I know everyone well, and I'm super appreciative that you're here.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, all of you, for reapplying or applying the first time. And to keep this simple, we'll ask the same question. You can all kind of chip in with your best answer. So the first, for those reapplying, why would you like to continue to serve? And what would you like to accomplish going forward?
I'll go ahead. My name is Amanda Tanaka. I am.
And pull these guys up a little closer to.
Pardon
there you
me.
go. Perfect. No, that's okay.
I'm Amanda Tanaka. I have a small business here in Aspen. It's a kids' clothing store called Row and Fern. I have been serving on the CCLC, I guess, for 8 years now. Longer? Okay, it might be longer. And I think just over the past, 24 years that I've been in town, I see Aspen, and I think a lot of people might agree as well, slowly losing its local character. And thankfully, we still have people kind of holding on, like shops and restaurants, people who have been here forever, that have been able to maintain their businesses here. But for me, it's really important for Aspen and our commercial core to maintain its local character. I think that's why people want to come to Aspen to enjoy. Of course, they want to see the glitz and the glamour and a lot of the high-end stores as well. And I think a good balance of both is really important. I also would like to continue to see through all the work that we've done on the Aspen Saturday Market. I'm really proud of the work that we've done and kind of the market that we've curated. And so I would like to continue with that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Angie?
Hi, I am Angie Wong. I am a real estate broker here in town, and I've been here for 20 years. I've served on CCLC now for 9, I think. I'm going on 9, so you've been over 10, I think. Actually, when Bill stepped away from CCLC, I think I took his position.
Okay.
So that's the timeline. I think it's really important for us to have like Aspen vitality. I think that's the goal for CCLC, Commercial Core Lodging Commission, for business owners, locals, and visitors alike. And I like what we're doing with the Saturday Market. I think I've been instrumental over the last 9 years in helping to streamline the process for the whole Saturday Market applications and grading system, and all the work that we've done towards that has been helpful.
Okay.
I like to see CCLC do a little bit more, because we used to be in charge of outdoor dining, and that's been taken away. But
Okay.
a couple of other things too.
We can take a look into that after meeting and see what the whys about that. I agree with you, and you may have noticed, but I've really worked through Pete to the department heads to say, hey, if anything's going on in the commercial core, we should be having a presentation involve CCLC, whether it's the street art and the red brick, or whether it's, you know, the new mall safety issues.
And it's
or-
been great, because businesses do talk to us directly and ask us questions about what's going on. So it's good for us to be in the know.
Appreciate that. And then Clarence, since you're, no, excuse me, I'm pronouncing it wrong.
It's Judd Clarence.
Judd Clarence, why do you want to serve on the Commercial Core and Lodging Commission?
So I'm just ready to get involved with my community, and I figured this was a good entry point. I think it's, you know, I want to make sure that I'm very committed, and so the time requirements fit my schedule. But I'm very interested in, you know, obviously preserving the vitality and keeping Aspen what it is. I too have been here a long time. I've been here 32 years, full-time for about 18. Raised my kids here, who are third-generation Aspenites. Love the town, have watched it change quite dramatically over that time, especially the downtown. And I think we have to really focus on keeping what we have and trying to even replenish some of what we've lost, because it's what made this town so great, and we want to keep it that way.
Thank you for that. Do you have a business in town, or?
Yes, I have a few. I'm a real estate broker. I also have a construction company. I had a property management company, which I just shut down last year, so it gave me a little bit more time. And then I work with my wife on several other businesses that she also runs in town. So, yeah, we're very busy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sam?
Well, I just want to say 3 regular members and 3 great candidates, and some reapplying, so very easy decisions here. So I just wanted to say thank you. To Angie and Amanda's point about talking about like your experience, 2 things came to my head there. One was, if you do have something like alfresco dining that you want, as a board, unanimously decide on something, and you want to send us an email through your chair, and we can have a joint meeting, I'm sure that's something we'd be interested in. And then, as you talked about the Saturday market, love the Saturday market. You guys do a wonderful job, and hopefully you can integrate a renovated armory into the Saturday market and maybe do something year-round with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Great, very good. Comments or questions?
Thanks for applying. I really like to see more than one person applying for one empty seat. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for applying. Angie, I think you hit on this quickly, but what would you like to see CCLC potentially work on that you're not now, or something that you'd like to be doing? And this question's for all 3 of you.
I want to bring back alfresco dining in our realm.
Okay, well, again, to be clear, we still have alfresco dining.
We do.
These guys just aren't the ones
Just not in
doing the
charge of it.
leasing and the sizes and things like that, and that's done through the clerk's office?
It
Yeah,
is.
sorry, okay, but we can discuss that, so that's just, I didn't want anybody to think we have no alfresco dining
No, we
anymore.
do.
Okay, thank you.
I think for something too that CCLC would be great for us to kind of help with is being, I don't want to say a liaison, because I feel like I may have gotten in trouble about this last time. But, you know, just that a lot of businesses in town do talk to us to come, you know, to see what city council and what the city is doing. So it's great when we do have, you know, all those presentations, like we had the sanitation, you know, the art. And so when people are like, oh, hey, what's going on with this? I can be like, well, you know, so it's just really nice, I think, for us to be able to communicate with the local businesses in town with what the city's doing, and kind of maybe have a more, I don't know, open communication. We've worked on newsletters before. I think that it has gotten, it was hard getting everybody's email and kind of staying up on that, but I would like to try to figure out something, you know.
Try that again.
And I understand over time, there's been a little bit of a, not quite a concern, but of the overlap between CCLC and ACRA.
Yes.
And the ACRA letting its members know what it knows is going on, and, you know, is there duplication or not duplication? But
There's some duplication, and I would like to work with ACRA a little bit more and better than we have in the past.
And we have had people in the past, and it's been great when we have
had a
somebody.
representative that was coming to all of our meetings for the last 2 years, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but
Okay, well-
it was nice to have that connection and to be
Yes.
able to work with each other on events and not have too much overlap. But, you know, just to clarify, I want to make sure that we all know ACRA is serving their members only and the people that are paying for membership for ACRA.
Right.
And CCLC is a volunteer position, and we serve all of everybody in the commercial core, so all the businesses and lodging.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that we get all the information out to everybody that is part of this community and not just members.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I just was trying to make sure, I don't know when you said there was a newsletter that kind
yeah.
of failed
And we would-
before or
I
whatever.
think that working with ACRA is wonderful, but it would be nice to get it out to everybody, because not all small businesses can afford to be a part of ACRA,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
and they have interest outside of the city limits, frankly, with
Yes.
some of the businesses. So, okay, well-made point. And we'll work on what we can do to get you further, but let's continue with Christine's question.
Yeah, I think Judd just went.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with getting a better, relationship going with ACRA, and I don't think even the general public truly understand the difference in how the different representations that are given by the two organizations, but I think it's important to work together. I'm also very excited about the upcoming Armory building and the use of that, and I think it's very exciting, and it's something that we should really do well, and we've got to knock it out of the park on this. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's something I'd like to see more of. It's in fact something I've had many meetings over the last 2 decades with multiple other previous mayors and city council members about whether there is a way to do more of this type of scenario where the city gets involved in maybe more properties in the downtown, that maybe there's even something that eventually morphs into an affordable style commercial program like we have with the affordable housing, where we can start to carve out a few spaces in town that are not just going to be taken over by massive international brands. So that's something I'd like to really kind of get going.
Well, I think we all share a very common interest with you on that. And what strikes me is that the ComDev department has started some work with a land trust.
Community Land Trust.
Community Land Trust, and they are trying to look at issues such as that. Usually they're about parks or housing, but we've asked them, can we talk about forming a board? So maybe setting up the Community Land Trust meeting with the next CCLC meeting when you don't already have other agendas that are full, to talk about where that's going and what's going on with that, because they are going to be a nonprofit and they probably could use active and smart board members.
Right? That sounds amazing.
Very good. Did you have any other questions or follow-up? Any questions for us? Thank you for your time and your commitment to Aspen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see, Judy Clausen was going to potentially be by Zoom, but she has been ill, and so is most likely not going to be attending. And so Barb Pitchford will be next. And
She's just in the restroom.
Okay, and I'm going to go to the restroom myself, so we're going to take a 2 or 3 minute break, and then start with Barb and the HPC. Thank you, Grassroots. We are tuned back in for the City of Aspen work session on January 12th, and we'll be discussing the HPC appointment right now with Barb Pitchford. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you want to do this again.
I would ask you the same thing, Rachel. I'm Barb Pitchford. I've been, this is my 51st year in this community, and I've served on HPC for the last 4 years, and I would like to continue since I feel like I'm beginning to have a pretty solid foundation of the guidelines included in the Aspen Area Community Plan and what the process is, how it works, and yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, something else.
Oh, okay. Sorry, there's some background behind you, Barb. Please pay no attention.
That's fine. That's fine. And I have to say, just as an aside, it was really cool to see 3 former students that applied. That was really cool. It means I had Susan Dillingham and Jimmy Pomeroy, Jimmy Pomeroy and Stefan Revere. I think that's really cool that they're volunteering in a community they were born and raised in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about your teaching ability.
No, I can
and
tell
it
you.
also says something about affordable housing. Because
Yeah.
That's a big part of why they're still here.
Yeah, I just, they know the community. I'm glad they're giving back.
That's really cool. I'll ask one question and then turn it over to the board for other questions, but what's the hardest part about being on HPC? Or what could we improve on the hardest part?
I think, it reminds me a little bit of the APCHA challenges, with the retirees and not, and the guy, sometimes the land use codes and the zoning conflict with preservation. I don't know that there's a good answer for it, infill, we want to make sure on a 6,000 square foot lot that you can build blah, blah, blah. And it's different for affordable housing than it is for free market. But that infill, the original reason for allowing this maximum square footage is in hopes that you would infill with year-round community, living people. But those big houses are not they're houses and they're not homes. So I understand the reason for the zoning and the reasons for the laws, but unfortunately, the impact or the outcome is not what we want. So it's a balancing act, and the HPC, the guidelines are very well written. We're learning a lot, and we have a great staff. They're amazing. And they are just guidelines. They're not absolutes. They're not black and white. So every single person that presents, it's a unique situation. It's not just a check mark and it's black and white. So sometimes those balancing of what serves preservation and what serves practicality are difficult.
Yeah, the decisions are great when they're 70-30 and they're really bad when they're 55-45.
Yeah, we've had some heartbreaking ones in the last 4 years. Yeah.
Other board questions? I'll go to Christine first this time.
I don't know.
Oh, okay, I thought you were getting ready to say something.
I just had a comment, no questions.
Okay.
But I agree with you. I think HPC does strike a delicate balance between preservation and development.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be tough. And that's why I think I really support you reapplying because, as you said, it takes time to learn the nuances of what's going on, and I'd rather have somebody in there that knows what's going on than somebody that doesn't. So thank you for your service,
Yeah.
Barb.
And you as well.
All right. Sam?
No, nothing but deep appreciation for you, Barb. Of course not. Nothing but deep appreciation for you, Barb. So happy you're reapplying to be on HPC. I know you bring a wonderful perspective to it.
Old perspective. That's what I bring.
Bill, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, thank you, Barb. I'm lucky to know Barb well. Sorry. need to go back to school to learn how to look at light colors. Anyway, lucky to know Barb well and be a neighbor of hers. And thank you for your service, Barb. What I wanted to ask was, do you think that the current slate of incentives available to HPC are sufficient to encourage the outcomes you would like to see?
I think they're reasonable. Could we amp them up a little bit? Probably. But with the people that come before us, money is not a motivator, nor is it a detractor. You understand that? I mean, a little bit. So I don't, when people in the core, or if they have one of the 300 resources that we have, the penalties that we have in front of us, which we can set, and the incentives, it doesn't seem to have much impact on their goals. And it's rare that we have an applicant that's a year-round resident. And for those people, so yes, I think it's adequate for now.
I'm not sure I totally agree with your statements, Barb, but that's okay. But what I would say is, I would ask you to contemplate, and I fully support you continuing in this role, to be clear, but I would ask you to contemplate if there are outcomes that you're not satisfied with on HPC, are there further incentives or enhancements to existing incentives that we could put in place to help? And you don't have to answer anything or respond to that at all, but I would ask you to think about that in your role on HPC. Is there something more that we could offer to help you get the outcomes that you are looking for?
Ask in that way, I would probably slightly change my answer. So yes, there are. I think we could kind of hit the reset on that, and we're doing a lot of learning. We have these work sessions now that we learn about the Department of Interior and the guidelines and what other communities are doing in some of these challenging situations, like how do we incentivize preservation and how do we incentivize actually maintenance? Like once it's preserved, then maintaining it is a whole nother element, because once they get through the permitting and they have the building, and then we go by and they're letting it go, or it's, so we're learning a lot. And so I'm going to change the answer that yes, we have a lot to learn, and I'm sure we could be creative and encourage, maybe incentivize, not just the preservations, but the maintenance of the historic resource.
Yeah, I would encourage you as a board to do that, because I think our historic resources and assets are true assets to our community and really affect the visual fabric of our community in a positive way. And I know for a fact that you've been disappointed in some of the outcomes that have happened on the board since you've served on it. So, I'd ask you to reflect on those, and that doesn't mean that we should, unilaterally change the regulations so that every historic house redevelopment gets 500 square feet more floor area. Right. I'm not suggesting something like that necessarily, but, what might have tipped the scales in the favor of the outcomes that you personally desired? And can you advocate for a change to the incentives available so that might have resulted in a different outcome?
If you really, each one is so unique, and if you look at some of the larger properties in the core, for example, the Wheeler Opera House and the Elks Building are fabulous. They've been preserved and they're maintained, and since the city owns it in the Elks, they've done a fabulous job. How can we duplicate that? I was obviously very disappointed about the Crystal Palace, but so if you take the Crystal Palace, for example, as something. What could we have done differently? So because each one is so unique, whether it's residential or commercial, I think that that is an excellent question to put on the table.
And that kind of thing, sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
That kind of thing, I think, would be more productive coming from the board level up to us.
Yes, it
as
would.
opposed to from us down to you.
We need to do the work.
Yeah, I agree with always reviewing and taking a look at these things, but I do have a little bit of a different point of view on this at this time. We had a hearing and we voted to approve, and I voted with it as well, because that's how the code is written, selling 6 transfer development rights to land in someone else's neighborhood. And it starts to become, is this the only incentive we're throwing out there? And I mean, 6 TDRs, that's a full single-family home somewhere else. And we're just making the east end of town the throwaway neighborhood. You guys can have all the oversized home on undersized, non-grid pattern lots, and we'll make the west end ever more valuable to those homeowners. So I have a concern with that. I mean, I remember when council was trying vigorously to get rid of all the TDRs that had been out there because they didn't like any of the landing spots. And now they can land right next to somebody else anywhere.
I totally agree with you.
And so I just want to say, I'm not as confident. And to me, I have a sense that people are buying a historic home, known that it's designated historic. They've got to have some idea of what the expense is that they're getting into to maintain that code. And I don't know that we have to, offer everybody $2 million or $2 million worth of density you can sell into someone else's neighborhood for them to fulfill the obligations of having first purchased it.
Well,
I
agree.
think there's a good balance here on this board of discussing those issues.
Well, and TDRs are not the only incentive. And I struggle with TDRs. I was on the Pitkin County's land use, we're changing Pitkin County's code.
Yeah.
It was an incredible experience. And TDRs, we did a huge deep dive into that. So it's not the only incentive.
Well, I'm just using that as a
But
point.
it's an example. For example, I know which one you're talking about. We did that, and the owner was going to do this, and affordable housing on it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we approved it, you approved it, and they put it up for sale in the next month.
Yeah.
And we're going, wait, what?
That happens way too often.
Wait, what? Yeah.
Way too
how it's
often.
done.
Okay, I've probably
anyway.
used too much time, and our
Sorry.
other applicants
Yeah,
are
thank you.
patiently waiting. I just want to say there's
And I would
other-
encourage you, we've often talked at HPC, and this last thing else, is to do a work session with very specific topics and then timelines, and Kate knows that because she sat with us for years, with city council about these issues. So we could come together and talk about it, which we would welcome.
We would too.
Yeah.
We've just been really kind of gelling over this past year,
Yep.
getting our new manager, moving certain projects forward. And we really want to, as a council as a whole, put our fingerprints on it
Yep.
this year and improve the systems for you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have Teresa McGovern is going to be applying by Zoom. She is online, and we are making her available to be able to speak.
Rachel, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We saw you. We just have to look at these little computer screens, see what they're telling us. Thank you.
I just want to correct for the record, it is Teresa McGovern.
Okay, sorry about that, Teresa.
That's okay.
Pronunciation's always been one of my weak spots, truly. I'll just start with the general question. Why are you reapplying, and what would you like to see going forward?
So I have been on P&Z now for 8 years. I believe I'm finishing my 8th year. I have been acting as chair, I think, for 6 years. It has been incredibly rewarding. I've worked with 2 of your current council members, Christine and Sam, in my role. I think I bring a unique perspective because I've worked on all sides of development in Aspen. I started my career with the city of Aspen as a plan reviewer, and then I worked for an architecture firm for over a decade, and now I work for a construction company in Aspen. So I know what these regulations mean from the city standpoint, from a design standpoint, and then from actually building them. And I think it's really fun to get to see all the other projects try to to meet them or why they think their project meets the intent, maybe not the letter of the regulation. And I'd like to continue in my role.
Okay. Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your service going forward. Questions from this side of the table? Not right now?
I don't have any.
Okay. Now, come on, you used to be P&Z. You
Well,
know how to-
I know Teresa. I'm familiar with how I think she does a great job, so
Okay.
we're lucky to have her in
Also,
that role.
I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I have a cold and I don't want anyone else to get sick.
We appreciate that, and that's not an issue. It's just, I was just teasing Christina that she had to have a question for you because she worked with you. But
She'll
Sam,
think of something.
Sam, same thing.
I mean, because of that, it's lack of questions.
Lack of
so
questions.
Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate you applying again.
Bill,
I think I'll ask both applicants the same question. And it's along the lines of what I talked about regarding the Board of Adjustments, which is, I also believe that P&Z, in part at least, fulfills a role of finding the right gray area and finding the balance between what's right for the applicant and what's right for the community. And I would ask Teresa to talk about that and how that can and should be done, in her opinion, effectively.
okay. You heard that question, Teresa?
I did.
Okay.
I think that we as a community have worked very, very hard in writing land use codes that meet the Aspen area community plan and meet the goals that our larger community have set out. I think it falls to P&Z to look at particular individual applications and see if they meet the intent of those codes while they may not meet the letter. I think it's hard. I think our codes are very specific and don't leave a lot of gray area. And we as a board struggle with that a little bit. I think that we could do a better job of having commissioner deliberation and really talk about what the intent of each of our review criteria are before we do voting. But, I think as a whole, we have a pretty thoughtful board and we come at every application from a lot of different perspectives. And I think that we have identified a couple of code sections and we're working with staff to set an agenda, a work session with you guys to talk about some policy resolutions we'd like to open on code sections of things that keep coming up, requests that we keep getting. And because the way the code is written, we don't have an opportunity to approve them, even if we think it's the right thing, because our code is pretty black and white, and our sort of bounds of review are pretty black and white. It's a different board than HPC because we have very specific code regulations instead of guidelines. And I think it falls to us to bring that up to council and to staff when we recognize inconsistencies in the code.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. That was very well said.
Thanks.
And additional questions or comments,
Just a
John?
comment.
Go ahead, John.
No, I think this particular board needs a chair that has a lot of experience, and I've known Teresa for, 24 years, I think, and she knows how to get stuff done. I really appreciate her steady hand on the tiller of this chair. Thanks, Teresa.
Thanks, John.
There you go.
No, nothing else.
All right, Teresa, I think that's all the questions, and as others have said, your resume and your hard work kind of speaks for itself, so we appreciate you reapplying. And thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now we have John.
Mayor,
Yeah, tell me
I do
what's
want
up.
to thank Councilmember Rose. He pointed out that Mr. Keneally had moved recently to an address just outside of the city limits, unfortunately.
Go home to your kids.
I think there was some confusion because the resume had an address that was in the city limits, but the application had an address outside the city limits. So
Okay.
I just want to thank him for applying. I did so, but I did tell him that we could not appoint him to this board because of the residency requirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what it was.
Appreciate that. Okay, yeah, I'm aware of that. So we will now be moving on to the Wheeler Board, and we are going to start with Tom Kurt, who's been patiently waiting in the front row since I first walked in at 4 o'clock. Welcome, Kurt.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service on the Wheeler Board. And if you would like to tell us why you'd like to reapply and be reappointed, and what perhaps you'd like to see go further with the Wheeler from here.
First, let me tell you I respect and admire the dedication of all of you to this community, and I feel that way to the Wheeler. I've been serving now for 5 terms on the Wheeler Board through 4 managers, so I understand how the Wheeler operates. Through Graham Slocum, through Jenna Bueller, Lisa Ridgway-Peterson, and our current Mike Harrington, who is a phenomenal manager and is scheduling twice as many events. Besides being the Wheeler board member, where I serve as secretary, I'm also a Wheeler usher. Perhaps you've seen me there. I'm the only person on the board who is an usher or a volunteer, along with my wife. I've been supportive of certain things with the Wheeler, such as the fellowships, and finally we do have arts grants fellowships now in the community. I've been supportive of doing certain things with the Wheeler lots, and now we have that beautiful peace symbol with the lights in it. I've been all over the Wheeler when we had some people coming over from the Tabor House in Leadville to see the construction. We went up into the attic where some of the timbers are charred and up to the roof. So I know that building just like the back of my hand. So I'm dedicated to this community. I came with my parents over Independence Pass in 1949 because my father had read about Stuart Mason's Huskies in the Saturday Evening Post. And I saw, as a 10-year-old, Main Street was paved and Independence Pass was gravel. Mm-hmm. And there were vacant lots between the Jerome and the Wheeler. So I've seen how change occurs. What I want to see is change occur where we have a community of people here and are proud of what we do. And please let me continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
No questions, just deep appreciation, Dr. Kurt. It's a pleasure to serve with you on the Board of Health, and I'm glad you're reapplying for the Wheeler Board.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure your duties aren't going to interfere with your Board of Health duties, but I think obviously you've got it handled. Thanks, Tom.
Being on the Board of Health helps because when we had the COVID epidemic, we were dealing with COVID testing, so we set up a booth, and I knew the person to set up a booth, in the tent of the vacant lots. We were testing people so that they had tests within so many days before they would come inside the Wheeler.
Oh, yeah.
So I was involved with that. And
That was a time I think we'd all rather forget, but we can't. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Tom, for your service. One thing that I have struggled with and I've worked on, though not as much as I would have liked to, is what I view as too much money in the Wheeler Fund account. And I'm very grateful to prior councils that have made efforts to alleviate that issue moving forwards. But I wanted to take your temperature on what you think we could use some of that money for that we aren't currently doing, given the constraints that I'm sure you're aware of with that funding, and if you share that same perspective that I have.
Well, the real estate transfer tax now is shared with arts grants. And I also remind you that it's not necessarily in the real estate market a continuous upstream, but it's more like a roller coaster in part. So there needs to be some averaging, and I've pointed that out. I think there needs to be some reserve for the wheeler because of those vacant lots. If you remember, Grant Slocum had designed a 3-story building there with a black box theater, more offices, rehearsal rooms, which the opera really needs, rehearsal rooms and stage. They made the mistake of putting some rooms for the guests on the top floor, and one of the local news called those penthouses. And because of that, the 3-story structure that was supposed to be on the vacant lots never got built. I think I would like to see more there because there need to be rehearsal rooms. The Wheeler stage is really rather small. Compare that to the district theater. So it's unique. It's unique. But we need to see more, whether it's a subterranean kind of a rehearsal room. There need to be more offices because the Wheeler really, we've approved 3 new positions. Where are those people going to office? So there are different, there are different ways to look at it and get community input. But I'm happy that there's something there now. There could be a small amphitheater, but the peace symbol put through Bradford Publishing is wonderful.
Thank you for that perspective.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're going to thank you for your time coming in. And we're not making any decisions tonight. We're going to be contemplating all that we've heard from all the boards and then be discussing it at a future meeting.
The Wheeler arts grants and so forth, the funds that are sitting there, which I think are more than 40 million now, could be used. I recall when Burlingame was paid for, and there was a short term of 6 months or so, and that money was sort of borrowed. So it's a quiet sinking fund. I'm not using that term.
Yeah, no, we've contemplated using the Wheeler fund balance for moving the Armory project forward in a significant way. So
it's a community valuable resource in different ways.
yes, it is. Thank you again. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for serving.
Thanks.
Thanks, Doctor.
Okay, Joni Clark, if you'd like to come forward.
You do have a raised hand, just in
Better hand up.
Okay, A. Bly, Alana. Okay, hold on. Can you unmute her for a moment?
She is.
Okay. Alana, you're 4th on my list, but if you have a time constraint and we need to take you first, let me know, please.
No, I apologize for interrupting. I just wasn't sure if you were moving past the first interview, so apologies. I'll mute myself.
Yeah, we just did Tom, we have Joni Clark, we have Jordan Rednor, and then you, Alana, okay?
Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. Okay, thank you. Joni, sorry, we have online people too.
Good.
Good.
The more the merrier.
The more the merrier. If you'd like to introduce yourself for us and tell us why you'd like to serve on the Wheeler board, what you'd bring to that position.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joni Clark, and I came here in 1971. And I started working with Klaus and Nomi Obermeyer closely, and I still do. He's 106, and we're all going strong. So I was part of the ski industry. I worked with Stefan and Stasha Kalin, also in the ski industry. I worked with Bob Yaddy in the World Pro Sports. And we did the first celebrity pro-ams for John Denver's foundation. And I was on John Denver's board of trustees for 7 years and helped produce the Choices Symposiums for the Future, that we have organizations all over the world that are still in touch with the heart and soul of Aspen and what we've been building there. So I've been very involved with producing and writing and leadership in these organizations. I also have done some work overseas. I led in 1979 with our late Dick Jackson and Stacy Stanley, and those guys put the first Mount Imalchuli climbing expedition together. And organized projects in microcredit with the Tibetans and the Nepalese for the next few years between Aspen and Nepal and the Himalayas. While I was in Asia, I went to Bali and fell in love with things and started taking designs over and ended up doing a huge film project for 4 years involving 10 countries of the world with Indonesia to do international sailing teams. And so I organized all the press, all the media, all the funding, and produced a major, like a Kontiki type of adventure that was quite well recognized during that time. So I tell that because our town is an adventure, and what we're doing at the Wheeler is very, very important. When I first moved here, I was dating Stacy Stanley, who was the mayor at that time, and he lived at the Pepke House, so that's where I lived. And I was mentored by our dear Elizabeth for years. And when she passed on, I'm lighting these candles and just feeling this whole, Elizabeth, come forward. So I feel I've been blessed with having some of that energy and honoring her commitment to this community till the end of time. And so I've been involved with leadership in those organizations as well as overseas. When I lived over there, I was able to work.
Let's bring it back to the Wheeler Opera
Okay.
House. So what would you like to bring to the Wheeler Opera House and see there? Have you attended any Wheeler board meetings thus far?
I haven't attended any of the board meetings, which, had I known this position was coming up, I certainly would have been. You know, I try and attend as many of these as in our county, and because I was on the planning and zoning for 7 years and wrote the growth management plan. And I'm dedicated to what's going on in Aspen. When, as you know, what we had, the Armory building was where we had our city hall and our P&Z when we passed that plan. So I love that we're going to be able to bring that to a very high level of opportunity
use.
for our community.
Yeah.
Just like at the Wheeler, which I love the Wheeler, and we produce all the John Denver events, and I'm part of the Native Americans, our indigenous film festivals, so we produce them there. Everything we can, we like to bring to the Wheeler, and I love and adore it, and am proud that we had the real estate transfer tax and all of these things, the visionaries that were able to create these revenue streams so that Aspen can be our dream, the Pepke dream and the your dream, and my dream and your dream.
Thank you. Other board member questions or comments?
No. Thank you, though.
Thank you for applying, Joni. We appreciate your time and your commitment to Aspen.
Thank you very much. Just a little note, I've been working with Grassroots, and Mike Shanahan and I are doing a show called The Soul of Aspen. And we just finished with Amory Lovins and Judy, and so we're bringing you all together on The Soul of Aspen, Grassroots. Go Grassroots. Thank you.
Go Grassroots. Thank you very much. Again, appreciate your time. Jordan? I probably murdered your last name, too. How do you pronounce your last name?
Rednor.
Rednor. Okay, just like it looks, Rednor. Thank you again for applying, and have a seat.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I feel like should have taken a nap.
Yeah, sorry about that, but we're not allowed to do that.
You know what? It's always interesting. I've only been a full-time Aspen resident for 4.5 years, which corresponded to going part-time at an ad agency that I've run for the last 10 years in New York and LA. I have a huge respect for the Wheeler, both as a physical property and as a venue, as I do for a lot of Aspen places. And I should say, just throw it out that I run Ducky Derby. I'm in charge of Ducky Derby. I've learned a lot about the town and the environment over the last couple of years. But last year was my first year running the Derby, which is becomes like a full-time job, I can tell you.
I bet, with low water and everything.
Well, that's the easiest part. But I do have a lot of respect in general for the arts, and I try and not just go to the Wheeler. By the way, the concert on Friday night with Ben Grisman was terrific. I don't know if anybody else was there, but it was really a pleasure to be there. By the way, for the Rotary Club and for Ducky Derby, just as an aside, they asked me, could you write some kind of tagline for the event and for actually the Rotary Club as a whole, and I did, which I've done historically because it's part of my professional background, but I wrote a tagline, building community, supporting our kids, because I think it's really important that we do more for community. You know, as someone who has been here for 25 years as a visitor, a homeowner, and then a full-time resident, I see it a little bit differently than people who've been there long-term, because I was one of, let's say, the visitors, and taking advantage of it in the community in a different way. And then through my participation in things like Rotary, I came to have a much greater respect. I have a lot of ideas. My background, by the way, as both an advisor and a chairman of companies and a board member, I have a lot of ideas in both the marketing and entertainment world. I started my career in investment and corporate banking, which is a whole separate story. That had to do with getting out of college in 1975, and my parents saying, cut your darn hair and get a real job. So put that aside. Talk about that some other time. But I do have what I call schizophrenia, because I can talk finance, I can talk marketing, and I can talk entertainment in one breath, because I've experienced all of those things. I have some ideas about the Wheeler. I could honestly say that I don't know enough right now about the straight finances of the entity. I'm eager to learn that, and I'm a quick study, and I think I can bring something extra. I also think that there are some opportunities there. I'll give you an example. And my wife and I talk about this a lot. When we were kids growing up in New York City, we used to go to Carnegie Hall for concerts. And I think we can do more for the kids of the community with the Wheeler. And I think that's an important thing. It drives me crazy sometimes when I was actually at Takaw recently. We're at a concert where people were just talking and talking, and it's like no respect for the entertainers. And I looked at my wife, I said, you know, when we were kids, back in the 60s, we went to Carnegie Hall, and you learned to be quiet and appreciate the talent and the music. So I think there's a lot we can do for kids in general with the Wheeler. I think it's something that is important. I think, you know, some of what's going on with the movies and ISIS, you know, closing, I won't get into what kind of investment that was, but I think there's an opportunity there to broaden some of the cinema appetite. So I think the Wheeler has a huge opportunity. And that's taken into consideration that the competition, the competitive environment is getting larger. And anybody who, if you've been to the Jazz, you know, the Paul Center, it's pretty impressive. It's a fun place. And ironically, it doesn't hold that much fewer than the Wheeler. Back in my college days, I programmed for my alma mater, Penn State. I ran the concerts there, and so I know a lot about programming. I also programmed a 900-seat hall there, which seems like a lot now when I sit in the Wheeler sometimes. But I've done all of those things, and I'd be excited to help take the Wheeler. By the way, I think Mike is doing an incredible job. I have to say that I said to a few people I was skeptical that they could, increase the number of performances. And I think he's done a fantastic job with the programming. So I'd be very excited to help advise him on the future. And maybe just as everybody knows, I'm co-owner of 3 radio stations here in the Valley. Not that that has any direct.
And no, not everybody knows.
Yeah.
So good, thank you for that. But listen, let me ask if other board members have some questions or comments they'd like to kind of pepper you with. Sam?
I just want to scratch in my memory. Is this the first board you've applied to? I feel like you've been.
No, I applied last year. In fact, Sam, you might have been the guy who asked me about because I saw Seinfeld at the Beacon Theater in New York City.
It's like a little deja vu right now. So,
sorry. This is my second time. I was encouraged by a former city manager to apply 2 years ago. Which I did. Didn't make it. So maybe I'm a masochist to be here again, but I think I have something to offer, so I figured I would give it a shot.
No, and I'd say definitely, and I apologize. Wheeler is like the most competitive board, and the members never leave because they're wonderful.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, so.
I was just going to kind of make that announcement I should have done it at the beginning of the meeting, but sometimes we have people reapplying for positions. We advertise the seats anyhow, and maybe those people have a leg up, particularly for difficult boards.
I got that impression last year.
And so this is for Alana as well as you and for Joni.
I mean, look,
it's a real challenge for this board to think about honoring and respecting the contributions someone has made versus bringing in new energy and new ideas. And it's really hard to say which is right or which is wrong. But that for Alana and Joni and yourself, and Kurt, just to know that's the dilemma this board will find itself in when we discuss it further.
Yeah, I mean, what I could say is, first of all, I'm not insulted. I get it. Done this before, and I'll do it again. But what I should say is, I think I bring a unique character to everything. That's my sales pitch. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to overdo it. I don't think I need to.
On the Wheeler board, as Sam has said, boy, I wish I had 5 more seats that I could appoint people to. Any other comments or questions here?
I don't have any.
Well,
okay.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sitting through all this. Yeah.
Appreciate it. No, you know what? I will say that it's good sitting through some of the other questioning because it just helps to broaden my view of the community which I serve now, and it's an appreciation. Like I said, I kind of chuckle when I listen to everybody that's been here for 25 and 30 years. I've been coming to the Valley here to Aspen for 25 years, and I've owned a home here for about 20 years. Before that, I owned at Aspen Highlands and places like that where it was timeshares, where we were just getting our feet wet.
Well, I'm glad you're a permanent community member now, and we're going to find ways to tap your use one way or the other.
And anybody who has ideas on how to get more out of the community in terms of supporters of Ducky Derby, I'm happy to listen.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to Alana, and if she is unmuted now. Alana, you've heard the conversations. What would you like us to know about you and what you would bring to the Wheeler Opera House?
Well, it's great to meet everybody. Thank you for your time and inviting me to interview today. I think echoing a few other people throughout the interviews I've listened to, I'm really just ready to get more involved in Aspen, in the Aspen community, especially at more of a civic level. I have chatted with a few different current Wheeler board members. I've also had an opportunity to review some of the advisory board meeting notes. And I'm really drawn to the Wheeler and its ongoing commitment to arts and culture and being a vibrant and accessible community hub. And I think accessibility is one of the biggest pieces of that. I have been part of the Aspen community. I started coming here with my family in the 80s, and I wanted to make it my home when I was 18, but figured out a way to make that happen about 10 years ago. And really my background, which provided the opportunity for me to come to Aspen more full-time. In addition to owning and operating music venues, I also worked in marketing roles with the NFL and Mars. And most recently, I retired from a role as a co-founder and VP of a sales tech platform. So I believe I can really bring fresh perspective, especially from a marketing and founders perspective, where I can help the board think, more strategically about audience pathways, not just programming. I also have experience with helping organizations, really articulate their value, think long-term, and adapt thoughtfully to change. I think one of the things, the themes that I've heard throughout the day as I've been listening to so many people talk, I mean, it's just been amazing to just like sit in on the different interviews. But it's really kind of what makes Aspen so unique. And it's that we don't have one single audience, right? It's really a lot of parallel worlds. Local workers, families, young professionals, second homeowners, and of course the seasonal visitors that kind of change. We all see it all the time, the ebbs and flows, the city's rhythm. And I think that what the Wheeler really represents is that it actually has the same amount of diversity, right? From magic shows and concerts to local filmmaking. And I'm just so drawn to this idea that the Wheeler is an accessible destination for all of us. And I love that the board exists to, make sure that the Wheeler remains accessible, remains relevant, that it's community serving, and it's not just another high-end rental venue or tourist attraction, but really a civic institution. So hopefully that's not too wordy and gives a little bit of background about why I'm drawn to applying for this role.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate your perspective. I think it mirrors what most of us feel about the Wheeler. Questions from this side of the table? Sam?
I'll just say thank you, Alana. A beautiful answer. Again, I'm sorry that it's such a competitive board, and I just appreciate you applying, and spots eventually will open up, and I only say that because of just the competitive nature of it. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea about this since we're not making any decisions tonight, but I just thought you gave a really wonderful answer, and on any given day, it'd be a wonder to have you on the board, and maybe you can talk to board members to get your ideas out there in the meantime. And also, don't want to keep you because the Steelers are playing. It seems like you work for them. So.
Yeah, well, that's important. That's important. And actually, Sam, you brought up something which I was thinking about after I watched the last set of interviews, is it'd be nice for the Wheeler board to have a public open house that was deliberately soliciting information and ideas from people who use it or participate. Maybe once or twice a year, do an open house, do a community gathering. So this side of the table, questions or comments? No?
No, thanks for applying.
Okay. Bill has a comment, question.
Thanks. I'm lucky to know Alana personally. I think she's really wonderful and would be a huge contributor to this board, and wanted to ask, and I apologize, I should have asked Jordan the same and Joni the same question. But Alana, I mentioned earlier that I think that there's a lot of financial resources that are sitting in the Wheeler Fund that are really, you may or may not know this, that are restricted to being used, within the four walls, if you will, of the Wheeler. Do you have any ideas of enhancements to the programming or the physical structure or anything else that those funds could theoretically be used for that you would advocate for?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think one of the things that happened recently with the Wheeler, which was mentioned, is just the public art that's on the outside, right? There have been some projection mapping that's taken place, and I would love to see more opportunities that draw people in, maybe just even into the lobby. So I'm not as familiar with maybe some of the need for office space and so forth, but more, I think just more access to the building. I think it'd be great to see people drawn in more. So maybe that's, I don't know if it's an elevated lobby, more opportunity for artists to take in residency. I think just not focusing always on the high tourism times, but I love, maybe some of the off-season, getting more artists in there and bringing people to the front door. There was a public arts initiative where they actually, I believe it was oh shoot, I should know the name of it. They did project the art install on the outside of the building, and I just thought that was a really beautiful thing because there are a lot of people I've met here who've actually. It shocks me they've never been to the Wheeler, and that there was a younger audience that was attracted to that, maybe kind of 30s to 40s, young professionals that have recently taken up residency here. And so some of those things that might be a little bit more contemporary and bringing them in, I know they take funding, so it would be great to see maybe some of the resources allocated, toward that type of programming. That also maybe some things that attract more down valley. I did know I participated with AVSC at a pretty intimate level, and I noticed that the further you get away from, I'm using air quotes, the roundabout, sometimes you feel more disconnected from some of the arts that we have here, and it would be great to see if maybe there was more maybe communication opportunities to help attract the audience, or maybe transportation opportunities for them to come and access the Wheeler as well. So just kind of a couple ideas off the top of my head.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Good question, Bill. Appreciate that. We are going to move forward. I'm sorry, we have other items to deal with after this. I have noticed that Sam Clausen's phone number is on there. Is this Judy calling in on Sam's line sick for the grants interview? Can you unmute? Yeah, is that Judy? Is that you on the call-in from Stan's phone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We understand that you've been ill, and we really appreciate this effort to sit by a phone and interview with us. You are the only reapplying applicant for the Grants Review Committee, and while we're not making decisions at this time, Judy, I think you can give us a very short reason of why you'd like to be on that committee and get back to bed.
Well, I've been watching these interviews that you've been conducting, and I would just love to have some of that energy and talent working with us on the grants and the grant review work. So we'll have to talk to some of those people if you don't have room for them on the Wheeler board. But Stan and I moved here in 1994, and I have worked in nonprofits all of my working career. I'm passionate about supporting nonprofit organizations, and I so enjoy my work with the City of Aspen Steering Committee, trying to set policy. So it's a program that your counselors can depend on. And when we give you the annual list of proposed grants, that you feel confident that it's a thoughtful, reasoned program. Of course, it's a competitive program. That means there are some people who are not going to be particularly pleased with the result, but that you should feel that the work behind those recommendations is substantial. And I'm proud to be a part of that.
Thank you, Judy. We really appreciate that. Are there any quick questions from the table? No. Again, appreciate your work. That's never easy. And I often ask people who are interviewing how comfortable they are saying no. And I know that that's a board that has to do that almost to every applicant because no one's getting everything they applied for. So thank you for that.
But we've worked on a substantial review process that you can depend on. It's transparent. And we continue to work on that.
And I agree. I think I'm just saying that it's difficult work, not quite dividing the baby in half, but it's just difficult work. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
And I believe that is all of our board interviews for today. Thank you. I know there's another name on the board, but I don't think that's someone applying for a position or anything. So again, we don't make decisions tonight. We are going to think about it, reread the memos we have, and discuss it at a future open meeting. We are now going to move into the section of agenda discussing the community picnic. And so we'll have staff come up, give you a couple minutes. I'll be back in 1 second.
Board is meeting on Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Grassroots will come back on. Thank you. Now we're going to talk about the community picnic.
Yes.
Thank you for being here, Nancy.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nancy Wesley Armor Cook. And really, this is just kind of a quick check-in with you.
Okay.
We have, kind of per council's direction and probably slowly over the last decade and then really ramped it up over the last several years, we've really focused on community events. One of the staples, though, of the community event is the community picnic. It was established before I came to the city, like 100 years ago. So, I mean, it's been in existence for a while. And really that same basic framework. When I started, it was in Pepke Park on a Wednesday right before Labor Day, because that was really quiet for town. So things have changed since then. But we've moved it for different facilities. We've moved it out to the golf course. We've added things, taken away things, but we haven't really changed it. And when we talk as a team and when we review the events we do, it is the one we look at kind of with a little sparkle in our eye and say, wow, look at the feedback we get from Mactoberfest. Look at the Art Cart Rally. These are things that people are like, when are you doing this next year? What are you doing? What's going on? And we just don't get that with the community picnic. And we think we have an opportunity to. We've got, lots of kind of things that maybe we want to add, but really this is just a check-in with you to see if there are things you're comfortable with us changing, and specifically, are you in agreement with our assessment of who our community is? Are you good with kind of our criteria? Are you good with maybe moving to what we consider really kind of an off-season? And really also to check in with you all and your level of engagement. Are you happy to, do you want to be part of the programming? Or really, would you rather just kind of come and be participants and kind of absorb it just, like a community member? So that's kind of the discussion we are looking forward to having with you.
Sam.
No, I love the community picnic, and I love being a part of it. It's always nice to serve food and meet community members in such a nonchalant way. And I think you guys do a great job, so I look forward to seeing what energy and ideas you do bring to it. The only thing I would comment on more or less would be, you said off-season, and I would more recommend shoulder season, only because you have so many people part of our community that actually do leave in the off season, but are usually here towards the beginning or end. And I would obviously think picnic summer, so I'm thinking May or August, September, somewhere that's more towards the beginning or end of summer sort of deal. But other than that, I look forward to your reinvigoration of the community picnic.
Okay.
Okay, Bill?
Nancy, thank you for. Thanks for that. Thank you for being interested and willing to sort of look at what we could do better. And you do so much so wonderfully and fabulously for us. This is one of those things where I'm really divided at my core, but I get pulled in the direction of this is a great thing for Aspen because I see the results, right? The Mactoberfest is just one of those things that on paper seems so silly and I don't want to use the term waste, so frivolous perhaps, but then you see the energy of it and how it's bringing people together and how much joy everyone gets from it, and that's so great for our community. Again, one side of me is why should a city government be involved in such things? And the other side of me is this is so great for our community. And that's the side that wins. I personally have no attachment to the history of the community picnic, but I'm absolutely not against it. I'm supportive of it. I would definitely agree with get it out of the craziest busy weeks of the summer. Maybe it's 2 events. Maybe it's a summer kickoff and a summer closeout. It's not a lot of money, at least what you've been spending historically in the grand scheme of things at all. So I'm not worried about it from an overall financial perspective. And yeah, I think mix it up. I don't know that it has to be a sort of static rinse and repeat every single year. Maybe there's different aspects to it each year. Maybe the location shifts every year, or twice a year if you end up doing so, that kind of thing. But I have a lot of faith in you and your ability to execute this and reinvigorate it, in Sam's words. And thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this to us. I think I've been to community picnics in 4 different locations, out at Truscott, Wagner Park, Red Brick, right out here in the plaza, and, Pepke Park. That's 5. They were all good. I seem to remember the one out at Truscott was the biggest one I attended. That was probably a decade ago. But I think it's an important part of the community, and I really enjoy actually flipping burgers for the community. I think that's really cool for the community to see us actually interacting and being present. I support you bringing us more details. I think, are there more effective ways to serve and engage the local community through this event? Yes. Bringing renewed energy, heart, and relevance? Yes. And shifting the event to a more off-season, I would like it to, I do think it's kind of cool that we include anybody who's visiting in town. I think that's cool for our visitors to participate in something like that. So again, I'm going to leave the time chosen to staff because you're smarter than I am. Thanks.
Thanks for bringing this to us. I've only been to a couple of the community picnics in different locations, and I do wonder if the inconsistency in location is something, because you note the declining attendance here. Building an event takes habit, and so moving it around and jumping around town into different locations may be part of that as a thought. I even went to the wrong place this year because I was headed to the other park. So that's one thought. But I'm supportive of retooling it and figuring out how to draw more people in. And the other note is that the school district calendar changes this year, so families will be leaving potentially by Memorial Day. So if you are looking to engage those groups, they're out for summer in May this year and going back in early August. So that's something to take in consideration in terms of the calendar.
Thank you.
Very good. I think it'd be nice to add some more kind of fun elements, which you may be thinking of already. But when I think about the city employee Christmas party and the photo booth, people love that. And I don't know what it would take to add that or extra expenses or things. But, you know, when a mom goes home with a picture of the 2 kids on her lap and they had funny hats, you remember it later and the kids want to wait in line for the picture. And, you know, but there are other things like that, whether it's games or, you know, things that the kids can play. Because it's really, any parent will stay as long as their kids are occupied and aren't screaming to leave. And so those are the kind of things I think about. And the year that it was here at the plaza here, the fire truck was able to park the demonstration burning building there. The kids loved it. Crawling through, there was fake smoke, telling them how to get out, how to stay low, you know. So for me, part of really reinvigorating the community spirit is thinking about inviting our community nonprofits. Would they like to have a booth? Can community health tell our newcomers where they are and what they do? You know, I really tend to think of that, of how many of the nonprofits make our community and do events. And, you know, so there was some by city departments, and I particularly think of the Arbor Day celebration. We had the police there to talk to people. We had, you know, environmental health, the composting people. So naturally, we're going to have city compartments sharing what they do and how they do it. But let's try to think about bringing some other nonprofits in, things like that. I really can't say what is a better location than others. I was wondering if out at Truscott the problem was parking, but out at Truscott, you had the pond, and the little kids were fishing in it, and they really enjoyed fishing in the pond. And maybe, I don't know if they were able to tee off or not, or play some putt-putt on the sand traps there, or the putting zone. But that offered a little bigger. That was, like, to me, the biggest turnout I've ever seen. But I also understand that being in town and having a parking garage right underneath you also works for this plaza. So I'm not going to try and say what's the best location. I really don't know that. I do think it's really important to take a look at the calendars as you're picking dates. Personally, I don't want it to be a date when I have to be in Denver for Colorado Municipal League or some other event. I don't want us to be competing with Jazz Festival weekends, so we have to think a little about the dates that you're thinking of having this as well. So people are talking about loving flipping the burgers, and we can go back to that. I'd be happy to. I have no preference there. But if we do food trucks again, I thought the lines got a little extremely long, and we would need more food trucks if we were doing food trucks again instead of service. But again, I'm happy to go either way with whatever works out financially and good for the people. John, you have a comment?
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention was something that sticks out to me that's very popular, Mactoberfest. Also, Soup Skull is very popular, and those are like, what do you want to call it, a food competition. Maybe there's an opportunity to do something like that. I don't know, that way all the local restaurants are involved as well. Just a thought.
That's
a great thought, John.
Yeah.
I'm super glad you brought that up because it really helps tie in the business community, the residents community. It's sort of a marketing event. It's sort of a community building event. It's like multi-dimensional, and it relies on the talents and a showcase of the talents in our community. And I'm really appreciative of that notion.
No, and you pointed out how popular Mactoberfest was, and I was just thinking, Soup Skull's super popular too because everybody wants to take, a half a cup of soup, 20 different kinds of soup. Yeah. It's a great function.
Mm-hmm. I only will add to that comment. I'm not want to detract from it, but I know I've heard from some restaurants that say, "Are they crazy? I can't even get enough staff to keep the place open. As opposed, they want me to go to this festival and set up a booth for 3 hours and serve hundreds of dollars worth of free food with employees I don't have." So I have heard people say they feel left out because they can't literally afford to do it, and then they're the restaurant that's not there. So I just don't know how to manage it in such a way
I think Leslie, sorry to interrupt, but I think Leslie's super creative, and I think that, within the existing budget, and I'd also be supportive of increasing that budget, to be clear, but, you could give a stipend to the restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm
happy to talk about further.
If we don't already, maybe we do, I have no idea.
I wasn't trying to put a kibosh. I was just saying that this is something I have heard from some that, and it's how many times a year you're going to do it. You're going to do it for Winter Skull for free. You're going to do it for this community picnic for free. You're going to do it something else for free. And so I just think it's a balancing act. And the real challenge is telling people, how many people do you think you're going to have to serve? How much food are you going to have to prepare for? Do you need rent a portable burner and electric and everything like that to set people up? It starts to get a lot bigger. But I'm not kiboshing. Maybe it's asking people to bring your best dessert or have your best cookies representing your restaurant or, something else. It doesn't have to be quite the same. So I just want to put that out there. There always are complications we don't think about at the table. I know running electric was a big one for the Soup Skull this year.
Salad Fest.
There we go.
I called you by your last name by accident.
okay.
Apologies.
It's never happened before.
I need to ask, are there other comments or questions that people would like to throw in? We can always send follow-up thoughts if it hits you in the middle of the night after the meeting to Nancy, and she'll take care of it. That's all?
Cool.
I'm going to say the meeting's over.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Grassroots TV. We always appreciate you being here.